around you.
Hey, what's up guys, Jaivs here. Today, as you can see in the preview, we will be going over this transition effect. You'll need Trapcode Form for this particular effect. So yeah, if you guys don't have that, just go get that. And we can get started right now. So, I have my two clips right here. This is a clip I'm going to start with, like the first shot. And we're going to be transitioning into this clip. So let's get started. I'm going to pre-compose both of these clips and pre-compose that clip. And now what we want to do is set up our things, so like wherever you want to start it at, wherever you want to finish it at, and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm just going to drag these into my tutorial folder. Make a new folder in that one. Call this one clips used. Drag that into the tutorial folder. Drag these there. Like something organized keeps me do better. Alright, now I want to start this, let's say around right there, so I'm just gonna trim comp. Alright, now we gotta twixter it to the part where we want it. So let's say I want to start it like after I shoot, so right about there, and search up twixter and drag twixter onto this. 59.94, and you can use your twixter settings. I'm just going to really quickly and set this one to 1. Alright, and we should be twixtered. Alright, that's good. Now you want to do the exact same thing to this one, but do it wherever you want to start it instead of ending. So I have to trim this really quickly, so I want to, like, let's say start it right there. I'm just going to pre-compose this with all attributes. I'm going to call this one twixtered. All bang twixtered, and then go into that composition and hit B so you can trim the comp, and then go back here, add the twixter, and change your frame rate, and I'm going to set this to 2, and the whole thing should be twixtered. Another thing I'm going to do is go to composition settings, and set this around like 30 or something, so it extends and this comp. Alright, now what we want to do is do an opacity fade. So I'm going to make a new folder, call this one form. This is where we're going to be using all our Trapcode Form pre-comps. So make a new composition, call this one opacity fade. I want to make this 25 seconds. Okay, and bring this right here. Now you want to do is drag in your first clip and go to the part where you started it, the twixter, and drag in and go in there. Drag in your second clip, like about right about there somewhere. And now what we're going to do is disable this audio, hit T, keyframe both of them. So we're going to make this 2 seconds long transition, so depending on how long you want this, will determine how far your opacity keyframes will be. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I'm going to set this down to 0. I'm going to go to 514 because that's a halfway mark, and you'll see why. So that's around there, and I'm just going to move this about right about there. Move the keyframe back to the beginning, and I'm going to go to 6:14 because that's 2 seconds mark. And then Tuxer's bad right there, and 100, no, 0, but that doesn't matter because we fade that in. So I'm gonna go to the 50% mark. I'm just gonna go down to half for now, and go to 514. 1, 2, 3. Alright, go back a frame. And I'm just gonna hit asterisk for a marker, so that just determines that it's in the middle. Now what we're gonna do is duplicate this 2 times and name the first one alpha, which is transparent background, and then this one to displacement, and make a new composition. Call this one form. Okay, bring that into our form folder. You want to drag all these into there and disable all of them but the opacity fade for now. And if we go to our beginning, or our middle beginning for this one, which is 414, and then now what we want to do is Control Y for a new solid, and color doesn't matter, name this form. So we've got form, bring that into this. Now depending on your depending on your width and height, will determine your size X and size Y. So if like you're using 1920 by 1080, then this will be 1920 and this will be 1080. So in your size in X, change this to 1280 by 720 or whatever you're using. Set the size in Z to 0. Particles in X to 430. Particles in Y to 240. And we are good here. So, and what you're going to do is go to particles and set the size to 2. And go to layer maps, color and alpha, layer, alpha, functionality, RGBA to RGBA, and map over X and Y. Go to displacement, functionality, individual XY, map over XY, set the strength to 0, and layer for Z, set that to displacement. And we should, if we disable our opacity fade, we should get this, which is pretty much the exact same thing, and should be nice. I still don't know why you get these lines. Maybe if you increase the size, like 4. Yeah, but it doesn't look good. So let's get back to 2. All right. Now what we're gonna do is make a new camera. Make it 50mm because it looks sick. Camera, and then go to layer, new, no object. And this will be our control, and then rename this one to camera control. Make it a 3D layer. Parent the camera to the camera control, and we should be good for now. Alright, now since this is our beginning, I'm just gonna make a little asterisk right there, so it marks our beginning. And if we go to the middle, asterisk, and towards the end, which is our 614 mark. This is just to keep make it like go faster, so you don't have to like keep scrubbing through a timeline. It's a good thing to do this, so keep that in mind. And then asterisk, and then go back to your beginning. If you hold shift and click, you can snap to it. And go to your form. Now you want to go to your layer maps and keyframe the strength. Go to disperse and twist, keyframe the disperse. Fractal field. Go to X, Y, and Z individual. And now you want to set the F scale to 8. And you want to set the flow and Z to 50. It just looks way better, like when you do the transitions and the particles are moving backwards, so it's flowing in the Z space 50 like speed faster. So if you want it to go even more faster, increase the speed. but just make it so it looks good. So keyframe the Z disperse also, and if we hit U on our keyboard on the form layer, we can see our keyframes. Hit P for position on your camera control. In camera, keyframe that, and go to your camera control, transform, and keyframe position, and keyframe Y rotation. And if you hit U, you can bring up the keyframes. Now, if you go to the middle right here, set this to -90. Set this to -415. But before, as you can see right here, this is our layer, and it's a 3D layer, and that means that this is our opacity fade layer, and this is our form layer right here. So it's, as you can see, like it's just like a line, but once we disperse it, it's gonna like go outwards. So you'll see what I mean. So that's just 415 and hit enter, and I'll just zoom it in more, and that's like really zoomed in, like right next to it. So if you just orbit around our scene, there's our little clip as a clip, and if we just Control I, that's just gonna bring it back. Now if we bring the strength to 200, disperse it to, and Z display, set this to 300, meaning it will displace our particles further apart in the Z axis, and go to your end, set this to -180, copy this keyframe, Control C and Control V, and you should get this, and then set all these values back to 0. Now if we watch this back really quick, I'm gonna RAM preview this really quickly, so I'll be back in a sec. Alright, so we're back and it's done preview rendering, so let's see what we have. Boom, yeah, that looks sick. So as you can see, it transitions into that, but as you can see right there, it's inverted, it's backwards, because our camera control is at 180 degrees, meaning our camera is like behind this, and we are viewing it from behind. So to fix that, we go into our displacement and our top layer, hit S for scale, uncheck this so both of them aren't affected, and hit -100 for the first value, and in here it should be fine. Then go back to our form layer, our alpha, on our top layer, do the same thing, uncheck this, make this -100, and if you go into our form layer again and move a few frames, alright, one sec, gotta purge it really quick. Alright, so it should be fine, and yeah, it should be inverted, and it looks good. Now what we want to do is make like a background layer so this fades into our form layer. So to do that, we go to the beginning right here, hit Shift and T on opacity, keyframe that, and hit T on opacity, keyframe that too, and we want to switch up fast blur, fast, and drag it onto our opacity fade. And what we want to do now is bring down the form layer to 0% opacity, and you can zoom in right here. And to do now is go a little forward, let's say right about here, and set this down to 0, set this back up to 100%, and if you go into opacity fade, set this value to 260. So what this does pretty much is One sec, let this load. Oh yeah, gotta bring that back up. So it's blurry, and when it fades, it goes like. Actually, we can start this at keyframe right there. Hit U. Bring this value to 0. And let's say about f40. What about there? Let's say 15 frames more, and then set this value to 260. And go about right about there somewhere. This is 15 frames before the ending keyframe, and set the value to 150. And let's say go to the end, keyframe both of these values. Actually, let's set this to 40% and go back to our last keyframe, set this to 40%. So we can get this nice background right there. It's kind of blurred out, but it looks nice. And then go towards the ending and zoom in just a little bit. Now what you want to do is, we're at 14, so at 19 is our 5 keyframes. So at 20 is our 6 keyframes. Keyframe both of these and set this down to 0, set this back up to 100, and at 617 we can keyframe the blurriness back to 0. So pretty much it'll like blur in like that. So it'll like fade in easier, and then we'll go back to normal. Another thing you can do is enable motion blur for all the layers, and enable motion blur to our form layer. And when we go in right about and if you look like right here, you can see that there's amazing motion blur on our thing. Like right here, you can see the motion blur, and there's depth of field because the camera already has depth of field enabled. And if you look somewhere else, like right about let's say here, there's motion blur, a lot of motion blur. And yeah, so now what we want to do is, I'm going to show you guys how to set this up in your like main composition. So hit B, because this is where we started. Go to the last keyframe of your thing, hit N, and trim comp. And what we're going to do is make a new comp. If you already have this composition, then you can just build on that. I'm just going to drag that out to a tutorial folder. And what you want to do is bring in your first clip, go into it, go to the beginning keyframe, go into your main again, and you want to Control-Shift-D to split it and delete the top layer. Now bring in the form, composition right there. So it begins right there, and then it goes in, does all that work and whatnot, and go to the end. And what we're going to do is go to our wallbang composition, or whatever second clip is, and drag that into our main. Now go to the position where you want it to start and double click on it, and this is where we want to, or where it starts at. So hit our speed and go frame back, and set this to keyframe it. Go frame forward, keyframe this to 100, and if we go back to our main and go right about here, it should be normal. And if we go back right there to that place, Control-Shift-D, and you can delete the bottom layer to disable this audio, and it should be normal. Now I'm just going to preview render this whole thing really quickly, and I'll be back when it's done. Alright, so it's done pre-rendering, so please watch it now. This is what we have. So, boom, and twist. And that's about it. So, if you guys like this tutorial, please leave me a like and comment for some feedback. And if you would like some more advanced particle tutorials or more sick transitions, please leave me a like. Around like 70 likes, I'll make a new one, like really advanced one. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, bye.